All right, hi everyone. Welcome to the Curious Competitor Podcast. I'm your host today, current NHL defenseman Carrick. Our guest today is Robbie Schremp, American forward legend. Scored more points than I can count growing up. Took his youth stardom into the Ontario Hockey League, a league we shared in our development, and eventually went on to become a first-round pick, going 25th overall. That was a lot higher than I did, by the Edmonton Oilers in 2004. I didn't realize you were 8 years older than me. We crossed paths at an AHL All-Star game when you were in Portland, I think, after coming back from Europe. And you were hanging out with, Chris Bork, who I was used to, banging heads with on the power play and things like that. Every shot I took, he was open. Every, goal I took, he was still open.
Yeah.
So Robbie Schremp, you played in 9 leagues over the course of your career, 114 in the NHL, 54 points. We'll talk a little bit about that, right? Like top 6 forward, crazy responsibility. Obviously you had immense pressure being a first round pick by a Canadian franchise, but you're a prolific scorer all through youth hockey, and highly touted going into the Ontario Hockey League. We have a lot of listeners that, are younger players, maybe parents to younger players trying to guide, their development, which is the business that you're in now with Vision 44. And I followed, how you've been able to build your company and your, sort of support staff that way has been super cool. But let's start, with youth hockey. What was your youth hockey experience like? Where'd you grow up? And eventually, how did you end up in the OHL?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me on. I appreciate the intro. And I'm excited to have this conversation with you today. Diving back into it, for me, growing up in youth hockey, I'm from upstate New York. Fulton, New York is the town I'm from. And I really just played that, called travel hockey, but it's, I don't want to put it down too far, but it's kind of house hockey. It's just, places around roughly 30 to an hour away from Fulton, New York, Auburn, New York, Geneseo, where else? Elmira was another spot. So it's kind of local hockey and really hobby hockey, I would say. Growing up until I was about 10 years old, we had a great group of guys: Greg Haney, Tyler Zinsmeyer, Kyle Kozal. We had a group of us that stuck together from like Squirt, Mites, right up until Squirts AAA. So we played local Fulton hockey, and then, for me, the tide turned, and really what changed my whole path in hockey was my dad. Don Kernan is his name. He's still involved in hockey. Brilliant guy in hockey. Got involved in the Fulton Ice Arena. He took over the lease, and his son took over running the rink. And it turns out that this guy he's unbelievable. Hot, honestly, kind of the best shot I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not to this day, I played in every top league you can imagine in the world. And seen a lot of stuff, seen a lot of players. Donnie Kernan Jr. has the best snapshot I've ever seen in my life. And one day he was out shooting, and my dad was like, "Hey, would you like to help my sons out?" So my brother and I started going to do lessons with him after school. And I went from 10 years old. I was playing again that travel hockey, and I was good there. I wasn't like anybody watched me at 10, they weren't like, this kid's going somewhere, nothing like that. I was good at my level. And then I started going with Donnie the next year at 11 years old, playing AAA hockey. He scored between 350, 400 goals. And we were playing the David Bolins, the Evan McGraths, those tournaments up in Canada, traveling this AAA team. We went from, it went right from 0 to 100 really fast. The guy that found me, Chuck Bloomquist, saw me at one of the Fulton games, was like, "Hey, would you want to play AAA, blah, 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 talk to my dad." And we said, "Yeah, why not?" So we jumped onto it, and Syracuse Elite Crunch was our name, Syracuse Elite AAA Crunch. And that year we played probably around 100 games in that house setting, or the, travel hockey Fulton youth hockey organization. We played probably, 30 to 40 games. And then we'd always had that one really cool tournament in Buffalo at the end of the year called the Pepsi tournament. And we get to go watch a Buffalo Sabres game. And that was the pinnacle, right? And then again, the next year we played about 100 games and traveled everywhere, played all the top 86 teams. There was weekends we were playing 7 games in different spots, 2 games on Friday in Buffalo, 3 games game or 2 in Rochester. Then we drive halfway back to Syracuse, play a game. And then on Sunday we played 2 or 3 home games. So we were playing a ton of hockey. And at the same time, having Donnie Kernan Jr.'s influence, it was pretty powerful. So it's kind of a long story long, but that's, that's where it started for me. And that's where I guess the snowball of me going outside of Fulton started. And it really started with Donnie Kernan Jr. and a guy named Blair White. These two guys ran the rink, and I got to go out there all the time. And Donnie gave me once I learned how to shoot, it kind of opened up my eyes to the game, and I started scoring goals. And then what happens, I'd have 3 or 4 goals and players would start to get nervous and they didn't want me to shoot anymore. So then other things opened up. So then it showed me how to pass the puck as well. But that all stemmed from Donnie Kernan Jr. So that's kind of my youth path. And then at 12 years old, I started playing Bantam Majors. And I remember it was a big issue with the organization because the Pee Wee coach really wanted me to stay at Pee Wee. And I was good. Like I didn't belong at Pee Wee's, it was very obvious I didn't belong at Pee Wee's. And I think it was a little bit self-serving for them to ask me to stay there,
Yeah.
And so they made me go to tryouts, and I already made the Bantam Major team, and it wasn't a hand me down or anything. It was like, he's going to have to earn it. And I went and, I did really well at tryouts. I was between Timmy Cicito, myself, who's 2 years older than me. I was probably the second best player on the ice. And so they made me go to Pee Wee tryouts. And I was kind of mad about it too. I remember being mad. I'm like, I don't want to play there. I want to play up. I want to go, I want to be with the older kids. I want to push, right? So I wound up hurting 5 out of the 7 goalies that they had at the Pee Wee tryouts with my shot.
Fine. You want me to try out? No problem. Put your neck guard on.
Yeah. So I just wanted to put a stamp on it, and I didn't mean any maliciousness to the kids. It was just towards them. I was like, listen, I don't belong here. Like the kids are jumping out of the way of my shot. Like, I don't want to play there all year. Yeah. So, so then I played Bantam Majors, and we made it to the national championship that year. Next year, again, 13, I played Bantam Majors. We had a really good team: Tim Sestito, Dustin Brown. Who else was on our team? We had a bunch of kids: Jocko DeCarlos, Christian Beaudry. We had a pretty stacked team for that year, and we went out and lost to CYA in the national championships. But it was a lot of great experience. Playing with Dustin was awesome. We had a really good connection. The chemistry was like, he played high school and kind of like the same thing, like local hockey for Ithaca, and he wasn't sure if he wanted to make that jump to AAA and play with the Stars. And then we got him to come to tryouts, and once me and him got on a line together, it was pretty sick. We were tearing it up. Like, in a 4 or 5 game tournament on a weekend, we'd have 25, 30 points each and dominating, winning games. And it was a lot of fun. So that was a big thing too at that point, getting a chance to have that sort of build up of confidence and everything. Because the following year I went and played right into Tier 2 Junior A up in Canada. So I was 14 playing against essentially, Tier 2 is it's roughly 17 to 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
And it can get wild up there too. Actually, it's pretty, it's some of these guys coming down out of the OHL, they're 19, 20. They don't, they're not really, they can't get scholarships. So they're kind of like burning a year or two. And I was on the other side of that, being like a 14-year-old kid trying to make it somewhere, pretty full of himself. And these guys, it drove them nuts. But
yeah, I'm sure you got your fair share of 2 hands. I love the imagery of you playing all that hockey growing up. Like I remember the same thing, playing 5 games in a weekend, all around suburban Detroit or Chicago, wherever. And you've got your Under Armour gear, like airing out on the rooftop as you're driving from one rink to the next. And it was the best. Like I actually shudder at the idea. I mean, this, you played pro hockey, like, you leave your gear out in the summer to dry, and all of a sudden it rains. You got to put your gear on wet the next day, and you're like, oh man, like you're doing the risk reward analysis. You're like, what's this skate worth to me? And then, you think back and you honor that 13-year-old that just wanted to, fill the net with 400 goals a year. And you're like, that kid would put his gear on no problem, and you strap it on and you just got on. And so there's an interesting parallel there. Very similar. So it was Donnie Kernan Jr., you said?
Yeah.
Was his name?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. We had Dave Gus was the gentleman's name. He bought the rink growing up, and I was the same age as his son, Dave Gus Jr., who played pro with the Chicago Wolves last summer. And very similar. It's almost like an NHL like draft and develop type mindset, where we had like a group of youth kids. A bunch of us went Division I out of an organization that sort of didn't. We had a coach and Darren McCluskey, and actually I kind of wanted to dedicate this podcast to a mentor of mine. Brett Rote was a guy I spent a lot of time working out with and training with and learning how to sauce pass with. He passed away recently at 40 years old. And I mean, this is the industry you're in now, where you just have such a hunger and an ambition as a young player. And hockey is such a coached sport. Like it's so nuanced, right? You're dealing with all these things you're not born with. You're not born with a stick. You're not born on ice, right? These are very foreign things to, sort of the human experience. And, the right coach at the right time can just totally change a young player's trajectory.
Yeah, I think it can be super influential. And either way too, it can go negative as well. Like in this instance, what we're talking about, it's super positive. And these guys were great people. Like they saw, and for my instance, my case, they just saw me at the rink and they saw that I was a rink rat. Donnie Jr.'s dad was like, anytime the ice is open, go. He just really good guy. Just, there's nothing behind it. He just knew that I loved it and let me go. And that went for anybody that really, if you love hockey, you want to get on the ice, it was free, go ahead. So, but it's super impactful and super encouraging, uplifting, and all that stuff. So supportive, once I started to get good at it, Don Sr., he guided me, gave me the chance. Even like at 13, he was going to try to get me to play a game in the North American League. The Rochester Americans were playing in that North America, but I went out for a couple practices and he was like, yeah, you're too young. You're not ready. Those guys
too small. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a tough league back then too. Like those guys would have grabbed you and taught you a lesson or two, no problem.
Yeah. So that was a good move. So
how about your transition then to the OHL? Cause that was a big jump for me, even coming out of the US team and, to go back a little bit from AAA. I played for the Chicago Fury growing up and went to the National Team Development Program, and that was a big jump. But who was your coaching staff in London, and how did they? That's the story of your NHL career, right? Super high vision, super high skill, elite scoring shot. And I thought, I definitely saw it in the OHL, like really high end offensive development, both within our own organization. I played for the Plymouth Whalers with Mike Vellucci at the time, who's the assistant coach with the Pittsburgh Penguins now. Was an assistant GM in the National Hockey League. We'd go toe to toe with, Dale Hunter and Mark Hunter. These are all, bona fide NHL front offices and coaches that just, happen to appreciate working with, younger men more. What was your OHL experience like?
Yeah, so I got drafted first overall to the Mississauga Ice Dogs in, I don't know, was it 02, 03? And it was a big surprise. My 15-year-old year in the OP, I led the league in scoring, and I had very offensive, and I did well. Like I had most games, I had control of the game per se, and dictating the play. And then jumping up to that first training camp, going up there and seeing a guy like Patrick O'Sullivan, who was unbelievable, like skilled through the like that guy could do whatever he wanted with the puck whenever he wanted. He could score whenever he wanted. It was like, holy, I'm not the big dog anymore. And I showed up out of shape, I didn't know what I was going to do. It wasn't really that big around our area. It was more like I just got on the ice and went and played, and I'd just be blatantly honest, it wasn't off ice for me. I was on ice all the time. I just loved hockey. I was always at the shooting room or I was at the rink skating. So the off ice stuff, when I got to the fitness testing, it was like slap in the face. But fortunate enough for me, Steve Ludzig was an amazing guy, an amazing mentor, coach, now a friend. Really was great to me, great for me. And just, he literally looked at me and he said that you're going to get your ass in shape and, and you're going to see what it's like to be a pro hockey player. You're not going to, he just grabbed my waist. He's like, you're not going to play like this. I was like 18, 19% body fat. I was brutal in 2 mile run. Like he was right. So I worked my ass off and got in shape, and it started to transition. It started to come to the ice, and it really showed. I started to feel more confident on the ice because I didn't score a goal the first month of the season. And I was, that never happened to me since I was 11 years old. I didn't know how to, It was a shock to me. I was like, what, what I mean?
What else do I do out there now? Yeah.
Yeah, and I was getting some assists here and there, and I did my points wise. But like for me, I was a goal scorer growing up. Again, from 11 years old up till I got drafted until going there, I always scored goals. It just came because people were stopping my shot or shadowing me or something like that, or really shutting my lanes down. So, but it was a big part of that. It was off. I needed to get in shape. I needed to keep up. I needed to get to those spots, get to those holes to be able to get those scoring chances at this level. You got it. You're talking 85 years, one of the best years ever with in all the leagues, but especially OHL, you had like the Richards, you had the, Jeff Carters of the league. You had, go down the list, Eric Stahl and Peterborough. The league was stacked. So it was a very good league. And it took me a minute to adjust. And, at the end of the year, towards the end of the year, I started to get back to that kind of same thing as the year before, where I was having control of games. So it'd be like, if Selly was having an off night, then I could step right up as a 16-year-old and take over the play, take over the power play, kind of dictate the play, which was great. But then, going into the next season, they sold the team. Mississauga always had trouble with ownership and that sort of thing. And they sold the team. They had let go of Steve Ludzig, and a whole new management came in, and it was, I don't want to dive too much into that stuff that I've had to a bunch in my past, but it just wasn't fitting. And one thing I'll say from just to touch on it, it definitely was more, it was odd to be a first overall pick and be challenged by a new management for some reason. That's where I'll leave it.
Yeah.
My name kind of gets like slapped around a bunch from it. I don't get it. We got challenged out of it. And then we were just like, it's draft here. Like, this is a distraction. We'll go. So I'm sure someone else will take us. So we moved on, and, fortunately we got to go play for a like of Dale Hunter and being in that organization with Mark. And, the team was, the year I got there, was stacked too. We had some great older guys, Scott Shepard, Danny Bois, Dennis Weidman. Corey Perry was just kind of coming into his persona, into a type of player that he was about to be in the NHL, but he wasn't quite there yet. He wasn't 19-year-old Corey Perry. We had a good team. Fell short in the playoffs that year to Guelph, to Cam Jansen, Kevin Klein, Marty St. Louis. They had a pretty stacked team. So that point of that being is that really precursed us, because we were the better team that year. On paper and through the course of the season, we pumped them during the year. We never had a problem with them. And then we lost to a game. We lost to them in a 7-game series in the playoffs that year. And it's one of those things where you read history of hockey of, the Oilers learning how to win from the Islanders, getting their ass kicked and walking by the room, seeing these guys in ice bags. That was our kind of moment, and made us realize what it took to win. Because the following season we came out like crazy. We went 31 games undefeated. And we smoked it. We were just on a war path, because we really thought we should have won the year before, and that kind of, I wouldn't say we let up. We just didn't have that extra.
Yeah, find a way.
Put them home, put them away kind of thing. And it wasn't going to happen twice. So the next year we came out, and it was an amazing year. Personally, I had a lot of growth that year. Learned how to play under Dale's system. Dale's a very strict coach in some regards. He's demanding and expects certain things, and he's very stubborn in his ways too. So there's no, as a player, you're not going to push him off what he thinks, you know what I mean? Which rightfully so. I had to go through it and learn that the hard way. So the next year I finally broke through that wall, and really we had a lot of respect for each other. And he taught me how to play, and the defensive side of the game. And for him, a lot of it is like during the course of the season, you're building up, playing the right way, because when it comes, at the end of the year, playoff times, there's no time to cut a corner. There's no time where, someone else will get my back check, or there's no time for that stuff. And he's right. And that, that's the difference between the year before when we lost and the next year when we won. The small details, the assignments, and the competitiveness, and the, almost the warrior-like mentality from, the drop of the puck in game one was building you up till that Memorial Cup final game, so to speak.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, a couple lessons, I think, for younger players that have already come out in just, the first 20 minutes of this podcast is, one, the right mentor at the right time can be so positively and influential. And the opposite is true. When you've identified a poor fit as a player, you've got to advocate for yourself and look for a better fit. I went through something similar. A huge dream of mine was to play at the U.S. development team. I was fortunate enough to make that team. That was, the end all be all. You're at the, the national camps growing up, the U14, the U15. They're showing you, it's marketing material, right? It's Patrick Kane scoring goals when he was there. It's James Van Riemsdyk scoring goals when he was there, and you're emulating, you're projecting out. I just want to be like that. If I can just play for that team, and it just wasn't a good fit. The way we played, the coaching style, it wasn't good for me. Conversely, I ended up, going to the OHL, Played a little bit more of an open game. Mike Vellucci, I was the only right shot demon. It was hugely positive, for my career. And then one of the things that, maybe every, older player, an older person in general, you're 8 years older than I am, would admit this, is you look back and I don't know if it's possible, but you always want to advise your younger self to really treasure these moments. Like, you can tell how well you remember these OHL runs, these playoff series, exactly who was on what team. Like, you could probably tell me who scored what winning goal when, and very similarly, it was everything to me growing up, and I cherish those moments, even the brutal losses at the time. Like, you learn from them, and they kind of fill your cup of hockey knowledge. And I also want to touch on one of the things that Dale did, which is, in my opinion, what always a strong coach did. And for any coaches listening, like, I've played at different levels. I've been, King Tut, the guy in the first line, the 2 minutes on the power play guy. I've been a 6-7 demon in my career at different spots. And I always felt like the best coaches I've had, and Robbie, maybe you relate to this, is for the games, for the guys where the game is comfortable, the game is easy, they challenge them to be better, to do more, to dominate, to be more responsible defensively, to be more energetically engaged, to not get bored, to play the right way in a 5-0 game, because the playoffs are going to matter and your habits are going to show through. Or vice versa, when you're on the other side of the pile, great coaches make the game easier for guys where the game's already challenging, right? Like, you're trying to fight your way out of a scoring slump. The puck just isn't sitting right on your stick these days. And there's certain coaches, they can't give you confidence, but they can help put you on the right path. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of good points there. And it's important because, I can speak from playing for Dale. He sees it through the lens of an NHL person. That makes any sense. So when you're up 7-0 and you're doing something, you know what I mean? Like, you can get it 7-0, right? It doesn't matter.
You try to go between the legs. You're doing stupid shit.
He gave it to me one time because I did that. I mean, it was a play came in. I probably could have just taken a backhand and went and put a backhand in. I tried to put it up in the air and bat it out of the air. We were up something around there, 5-0, 6-1. And his comment just simply was, Schremp, do you want to be a 30-goal scorer or a 29-goal scorer? It's like, those things matter. And what was the point? And I'm like, yeah, I want to be 30. Yeah. Okay. I hear you. Just put it in. You know what I mean? It wasn't like barking down my throat or anything. It was just a really direct comment. And he was right. And it made me think about it. And I was like, the first side, I'm like, oh, I want to make the fans jump, right? But that's not what it's about. It's not about that. It's about winning and keeping the, good mentality and good habits. And, again, he sees it through a different lens. Like, he can also see you as a player or as a team through the lens of, like, the higher level. You're not going to be able to do this stuff when you get up there. He's not theoretically saying that. It's actually a fact.
He knows. Yeah, he's been there. Yeah, he knows.
So that's why a lot of people really want to get there and play, because they know, that guidance is, again, not theoretical. It's they watch a ton of hockey and they try to coach that team to the standards of, what's going on in the NHL, trends and that sort of stuff. So, that's important. And then also, to your point, again, I can speak to what you said is about like slumps and stuff. Like, he was hard on me for sure a bunch of times, but he also knew when to help. And there was a couple of times in the PP where I was really getting shadowed and guys would take it away because I was scoring so many goals from the same rough area. And, he just came up and was like, Shrimpy, just get it off quicker. Like, I'm telling you right now, just do me a favor. Don't catch it tonight and hold on to it. He's like, just grab it tonight and whip it. I don't want you to even look. And first play I got on the power play, grabbed the puck, and I didn't score in like 6 or 7 games. And sure enough, I didn't even look, grab it, boom, slips through the goalie's 5-hole. And he just gives me like a, you know what I mean? Like, so away she goes. And I was like, he knew when to push and he knew when to be like kind of helpful and sort of more of a mentor or guide you, so to speak. And he can get you out of certain, like you said, situations. He played with some great players through his career. And guys like Peter Bondra, he sticks out, in mind. For me, he talked a lot about him too, the way he shot the puck, the way he did different releases. He can one-time a puck from anywhere. He can get a shot off from anywhere. And he would, the funny thing about Dale too, we're talking a lot about him, but he could, like, when he was out on the ice with us, even at like a little bit older age, he was still like nasty with the puck.
Yeah.
He would go in the shootout and win.
That doesn't leave you. Yeah. Those, I mean, Dale Hunter was an elite. He didn't just have a cup of coffee. Like, he played a long time in the National Hockey League. It doesn't leave those guys.
Like 3,000 PIMs. And, he did have 1,000 points, which a lot of people forget. A lot of people think about him that Pierre Turgeon hit, like running that guy through the wall after the goal. But like, man, he could play he could snipe, he had hands, he could pass the puck. So it's amazing, actually, like what other attributes. He wasn't just a hard-nosed dude. He had he saw the game through a lot of different lenses, which really I thought was pretty cool. Made you really respect him. Again, like, the coach is let's say he's kind of a hard ass on you. And then he was a hard ass when he played. And then he goes out in practice right in front of everybody and he beats all of us. Corey Perry, me, David Bolin in the shootout. You got
yeah.
Give him the hat. Like, all right, I'll take this guy's shit. But pretty cool. Pretty cool.
So what do you remember about your transition to pro? Because you played a long time. I mentioned at the top of the podcast, but you have experience in the OHL and the American Hockey League, and you played the American Hockey League when it was real tough. Like tough grinding style of hockey. A first round skill guy, like, they couldn't wait to get their hands on you. The NHL, the Swedish Hockey League, the KHL, the Austrian League, the Switzerland Swiss League. This is all off Hockey DB. So if I'm wrong, let me know. The Swiss National A and the Deutsche, am I saying that right? Ice Hockey League in Germany.
Yeah, DL.
So obviously a huge host of experience. Every league has its nuance. The North American leagues are going to be most familiar, to our audience today. But you're on the other side of your career now, and it's something that you earned. No one can ever take it away from you. You had an outstanding career. It's still so cool to see how passionate you are about the game. I know pro hockey, it can bitter you at times. It can humble you, beyond, solace, where, man, you're staring at the ceiling fan wondering, like, how am I going to get out of this? Or how am I going to keep doing this? And, what do you remember? What are you most proud of? What do you regret? If there is any, spit it all out.
Yeah, I think, for me, jumping from junior to pro, it's like the last year of my junior career was, I had a lot of success and a lot of gas.
57 goals in 57 games.
Yeah.
145 points.
I came out swinging too. So that first time, I just read, someone tweeted at me the other day, the first 8 games I had 30 points back from, I was the last cut in Edmonton. My first 8 games back, I had 30 points. And I was gun to it. I really thought I could have made the team that year. And that's, it was a big lesson for me. Don't put.
What was that exit meeting like? Do you remember it?
It was confusing as hell, to be honest with you, because it was like the city was wrapped around, like all the newspapers, like, and that's another thing I learned. Don't read that. Don't read it. Even though that was positive. It wasn't like negative at all. It was all positive. I thought it was on the team, and, got the meeting, and it was kind of like, hey, great camp. Thought you did well. We're gonna send you down, but we're gonna sign you to your entry level. So it was kind of like, I guess, the old smack and tickle.
Yeah.
I just was like, I got hit with that, and I was like, and then I got hit with like that signing. I'm like, that's something for me coming from our family. Like, my dad worked in a factory, worked his ass off. My mom worked 2 jobs, always working 2 jobs. So like that was a huge. But right after, like, getting the "we're gonna cut you," it was such a different emotion, man. Like, if I'm being brutally honest, I was like, what the hell? So after I had time to chew on it, I went back to London, and I was pissed. I was like, man, I should have been there. I wanted to be there. I want to challenge. I want to prove myself. And I came gunslinging, so to speak, back to London. And me and Bowles were chirping back and forth when I was still in Edmonton. He was already back from Chicago, and he had got a little bit of head start. He was like 10 games ahead of me, and he had like 30 points. And I remember we were on like Skype or something. I'm like, I'm gonna catch you, buddy. I'm gonna catch you. Watch this. And he's like, you're right, whatever. So as soon as I got back to London, guns blazing. But anyways, to take that, it was like a lot of that year. I really did well in the league, and I thought that would transition. And then the next year, going into training camp, got cut again. Another blow. Go down to the minors, and like you touched on it, it was the Wild West. I mean, it was crazy back then. Every team's had 5-6 fighters. I mean, we had monsters. We had Dennis Bonby, Matt Karkner, Dan Carcillo, everybody, Ryan Stone. We had like 5 dudes, and every game was like Philly. We go into Philly, we go to Hershey. It was like 4 or 5 fights every night. And it was, I grew up watching that. And when I was like 11, 12 years old, the junior A team was in the Metro League in Ontario. And there was that kind of hockey was there. So this wasn't fresh to me or like, what is this? I've never seen it kind of thing. But I was like, then trying to get out of there as a skill guy. It's like, what am I supposed to do here? Like, I don't know. I toughen up, or I was never going to start scrapping. That was never going to be my game. But, it's a tricky balance in that time, the big physical game and trying to find your way through being a skill guy. And fortunate for me, we picked up Robert Nielsen through a trade with the Islanders, and that saved my career. That saved my career, but saved my season. I mean, going into that, I had like, as a point guy, I had like, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 points in 40 games. And I had no idea. I had no clue which way to turn. I wasn't dominating. Wasn't clicking on the power play with anybody. And Robert Nielsen and I got together. He got there. We just tore it right up. Like, we thought we just had that chemistry, and that we knew where each other were at all times. And the power play just started going boom. And then it went to 5-on-5, and that just raised me up, gave me confidence. And we both were, I finished the year with like 53 points and 60 games, which is a hell of a comeback from where I started. And that was uplifting. And then the following season, he stayed up with the big club. I didn't. So back down, just kept getting kind of knocked down the ladder. It's tough. You got to stick with it. And I'd say, for me, that's one thing. If I look back, would be my 3rd year in the minors. I really just kind of hit a wall, very frustrated, very unfocused in the sense of I just couldn't see past the clouds, and it was frustrating. And I let it get to me. If you're a young guy, it's just, there's other people watching you. It's tough though. I'm older now, and that's the advice I was getting back then. I was so clouded, so full of it, whatever, maybe anger or bitterness. I forgot about that 12-year-old kid, and I then forgot about him, and I was kind of lost. So I think if you're ever in a tough time like that as a player going through it, again, we touched on it in this pod, is like, think about that kid. Like, what would you do to enjoy the game? If I was upset as a 12-year-old at anything outside of hockey, I went to the rink and I worked and just went chop pucks. Probably should have done the same thing that year, the 3rd year of my minors. I didn't, though. I just got clouded. So that got shelved. And luckily the next year I got picked up by the Islanders, and that was a breath of fresh air and gave me a chance to clean the slate and not have anything, from whatever baggage from before. And it was great from there, to be honest with you. I really had a good time in New York. Had to earn my stuff there, but it was a different feeling. I got there off waivers. I played the first 4 games. I remember the meeting. They got called in. So what position you play? I was like, kind of almost shocked by the question. And I was like, I played center my whole, I've always played center, but okay. Can you play wing? I'm like, yeah. I mean, I played last year. I played a bunch of wing, and I played the right side, which was I've tried the left side, didn't go that well, and the right side, I felt a lot more comfortable. I could attack and okay. So I show up the next day of practice. So fourth line, left wing, because they go in.
Yeah.
We talk. But so they didn't go well those first 4 games, and I knew it. And I was kind of like, damn. In my head, I'm like, God, I'm getting sent down. They're like, they just called me in and said, listen, you're gonna have to wait until the center spot, opens up, and we're gonna stay in practice and work hard and earn your spot. And wind up taking I think it was around 15 games. I sat out healthy scratch.
A long time sitting there.
Scotty Allen was bag skating us every day. Blake Como, myself, the pit bull, the bulldog.
That's a tough guy to bag skate with too. Blake Como can go.
He's a horse, man. His legs are like twice the size.
He's a horse. He does not get tired, man.
Like the
you see that guy in the penalty kills still, and he just keeps churning.
Yeah.
With that, he's got a curve like a gardening hoe. It's like the
wedge.
It's what they shovel the ice with in between whistles.
Exactly. Yeah. So Combs was awesome. And we ended up kind of getting back in the lineup at the same time. And him and I hit it off on a line. And it was great. I had some good success that year. And so you'd say out of those, it was probably 4 or 5 games. So about 40 games, we put up almost a point a game. Roughly somewhere around there, like 25 points, 40 games. It's a good clip, at least we were 3rd line kind of offensive, not really expected for offense. We just kind of, you know what I mean, that depth scoring, so to speak, which we did well. And that year I got a chance to really learn about like how to add value. But the shootout stuff, like it was different, but that's what that wound up keeping me in the lineup. I came in and started doing well, putting up some points and stuff. But then when the shootout started happening, Franz Nielsen and myself, we just kept scoring. And that was huge for us. We had a bunch of ties that year. But for me, sitting on wanting more as a third line guy, coming from, still had that fresh memory of, I guess, junior, like I could score here. And some of these guys that are coming up, the new guys coming in the league, I'm like, man, I scored that guy by 100 points. That's my mentality, but that's not the way she goes. You got to take what you're getting and earn what you get. The shootout was like something I could keep me valuable to the team. And that's something I think you can agree with is once you get around that level, it's whatever you can do. It's not what you think or what you think's deserved or owed. It's not, nobody cares. And not many people are going to make a call to make somebody care. It's going to be in your lap. It was going to be on you to prove and earn. And sometimes it might not happen. And that's just the way she goes. And it's, world's not fair. But at least when you give it your all and you try new things, you try new angles, if you get knocked down, you get back up, you'll at least have self-integrity at the end of it. And you can look yourself in the mirror when you're 35.
Yeah, finding value. And I call it like mental fitness. Mental health gets a lot of, there's a stigma around it. It almost implies, weakness. But when I think of physical strength, right, it's your ability to tolerate stress. Like how hard can you bag skate and recover? How fast can you go? How much weight can you push? How much weight can you handle? And then there's physical recovery tools, right? You see guys jump in the cold tub, they jump in the sauna, whatever. And that's something that when I look back at, younger in my career, like there will be, the American League is so trying. And you talk to guys from the coast and things like that, that's even more difficult emotionally, mentally. And I wish I had done a better job learning to refreshen myself mentally as a young pro. Like I remember how many bitter days I had come to the rink, just angry, defiant. It didn't matter what the coach said. I was going to find a way to think he was an idiot. Similar where, I was in the American League a lot later and it wasn't as spicy as when you were there, but like I had like 135 penalty minutes as a 5'10" D-man my first year. I had an interesting path. So I did really well in the OHL, not as well as you. Did really, really well in the playoffs. Had a stellar development camp, a stellar World Junior evaluation. All of a sudden, I went from a 5th round pick without a contract to, Steve Richmond was the head of player development for the Washington Capitals, telling me, "Hey, like Connor, like you got a chance to play in the NHL." And me getting all smiley and giddy, being like, wow, I really hadn't thought of it like that. And he's like, "No, like you got a chance when you come back for rookie camp in the fall. Like you better really be ready." And I didn't even have a contract yet, so I didn't know what that meant. And man, got hot. Killed it in preseason and did really well. But something similar where I was kind of a more offensive guy. I was playing behind John Carlson and Mike Green, who were both premier offensive D-men. So I was gonna have to go down to the minors and like learn how to add value. All of a sudden I'm playing my offside. I'm on the power play. I'm getting pulled off, and I don't know if you can hit that reset button and go, okay, situation sucks, Connor, but like you've got to find a way to make the team better tonight. Otherwise, the carpet you're standing on will be, the rug will get pulled underneath you, and all of a sudden you'll really have no idea the opportunity you had, because opportunity, it's tough to come by in pro sport. In pro hockey, there's just too many good players.
Yeah, there's always new waves, new draft picks, new flashy players to management, to scouts.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe a shameless plug, but that's really why I'm in this space too, that I'm in is trying to add value to players like that and try to show them how to, through experience being there, like don't get bogged down. You say you're an offensive guy, you're not going to have the rope that Johnny has or Mike has, but you being ready for the moment when you could add some value offensively, not, because the emotional side of things it clouds you sometimes. It really does. And you're thinking, I just got to be this, and like gripping your stick or, can't make a mistake sort of thing. That's a little bit different than I'm going to play a different way. And once I get my opportunity, watch this. That's a mindset, and it's a change. Just be patient, and then all of a sudden you're like an added value guy. You're an added offensive value guy you're not doing any risk. You don't need rope. You're playing solid. You're playing sound. You're just going to wait until that door opens and you take advantage of it. Because again, the mental side of it is, again, when you get pegged in that spot where you're not comfortable, you immediately almost shut down and you're like, F this guy. Like I can, I'm better than Johnny, everybody's competitive. And sometimes you might say that to yourself and you might be, you might not have any self-awareness. Like you're not John, no offense, saying you'll be like, I'm not Patrick Kane, you're not who you think you are, so to speak, but you can challenge and want to be that greatness. Anyways, point being is just staying mentally clear, and thinking about things a different way. More positive.
Different perspective, right? And I don't think it's a shameless plug. Like a big reason I had you on the podcast is you're working with Vision 44. Like I think, we've laid a lot of the background of how vast your experience is, how hard earned it is, how long it's taken you to accumulate all this. What is your mission with Vision 44? What is it that makes you so passionate about it? Because I've seen it, just through talking to you and through social media and things like that. It transition out of hockey can be brutal, especially for the guys that were really close to having that next level of success, right? Like, you and I have both played, a strong, considerable amount of games, but let's both be honest. We'd obviously love to be sitting on 1,000 games played careers when we're done. Like that's how you think as a player, right? Like I remember when I first got drafted, it was in 2012, and I remember thinking to myself, I went to I think it was a Blackhawks playoff game after that. I'm trying to remember, and I remember thinking I was so jealous of the guys during the anthem. I was like, man, if I can just play one NHL game, I could die happy. And after I played the first NHL game, I'm like, I'm an idiot. I need way more than that to be happy.
Yeah.
I am nowhere near satisfied, Yeah. And, so what is it Vision 44 does so well? What is it your team does so well? I mean, listen to some of the coaches you got. I wrote some of them down here. I mean, you've got yourself, Craig Cunningham, who's got a fascinating and beyond inspiring story. Mike McKenna, Blake Bolden, who I've had on the podcast. What a breath of fresh air she is.
Awesome.
Freddie Meyer. I don't know a couple of these guest coaches. I think it's Nathan Craze. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Craze, and then Amanda Pelkey, and there's a ton more with testimonials from Patrick Kane, Drew Doughty, Corey Perry, Dale Hunter, Don Hay, Jay Bowmeister. It's obviously a superstar staff, a staff you should be, and I'm sure you are super proud of. But what is it you found so rewarding working with, kind of the next wave of player, and what drives you to keep learning?
Yeah, I just really I started doing it all with a couple. It's kind of was started off as like almost theory. I know there's other people doing it, but when you jump into something new, you never know. And started just doing clips for some players and seeing it through my eyes. And the thing was for me when I played con was like I tried to draw up on the bench and stuff. Like I saw the game. I see things. Like my vision was my thing. So when I'm on the bench trying to like draw it up on a chalkboard, it is frustrating. And sometimes guys, what are you talking about? Like I couldn't get what I saw to them. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I started doing it on this platform, Instat, and it was so, I don't know what the right word is, but it just opened up. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like because I thought, again, it was theory then. So I started sending them to some players and they're like, thank you. This is sick. Like that makes a lot of sense. And I kept getting that. That makes a lot of sense. And they started doing it and it started working. So I was like, okay. So then I realized that this is going to work. And I started just kind of calling people like Freddie Meyer and these kind of people. And I thought the other thing I had a big passion for was the women's side of the game. I was like, this is brilliant. I think if we could take Olympic level women or NWHL women or these high level women, insert their knowledge and experience, just like we're doing with the boys and the men, into these young girls at 12, 13. Like that's the thing I think a lot of the lacking at that, 12, 13-year-old girls game is that, like, let's say like Marty St. Louis coaching a 12-year-old team right now, Vincent LeCavalier, Tim Conley, these names are all circling back coaching boys hockey. That's great information, great knowledge. what I saw didn't really happen on the girls' side for the women.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't really a lane. I know somebody's like they're making like, good money coaching Pee Wee hockey. That doesn't exist. So for the girls, I thought it would be a unique way to open a door of opportunity for them to, again, help grow the game with that great knowledge, great experience, and just like we're doing with the boys, but like even more so because I think that's where they need a little injection of knowledge and experience and not theoretical stuff. It's game like. So that's where it kind of got built from, and everybody came on the platform, and it's really now it's been a matter of giving, expanding this knowledge and experience from pretty high levels, and it can be, it has the ability to be global. It's really cool. So you don't have to be let's say a 44 vision camp to get that. You could be in Kazakhstan, you can be in Chicago, you can be anywhere, and if you have game film, we can have one of these coaches. And the other thing is I wanted to add different types of coaches. This isn't like Rob Schremp's platform. I wanted I wasn't known as a defensive specialist by any means. So having a Freddie Meyer on the defensive side, a Danny Severette, or even a Glenn Metropolitan, like these different names that saw the game through different lenses, I think that's to collect a mass amount of, again, knowledge. I keep using the same words, but that's important. The knowledge and experience, you collect a bunch of it and you can really help a lot of people. And we all had our different journeys, our different paths. So then it becomes a lot more like mentorship. And even, if it's not something of a half wall issue, it becomes something along of my coaches, I'm having an issue with my coach. I can tell from my experience. Well, again, be creative, like don't be stubborn. Try these different things that we just talked about, like going at these problems in a different way that I wish I maybe would have done, and it's a different way to give back. And it's, again, when I'm telling a kid that, I say, listen, I went through this. I'm not just grabbing an inspirational quote from the internet and telling you, I lived it. I've been through it. I was that age, and, that stubbornness. And I'm telling you, like, try a different angle and, mentor them through it. And it's smooths it out a little bit faster. And I think it's gratifying for me personally to be able to do that. And the response has been phenomenal. And the last piece of it is trying to do it at a feasible amount for a feasible cost, kind of growing a team of coaches where we can expand and hit a large number of players for fair, again, if there's some of this stuff that's out there, I know I wouldn't have been able to afford it. My shooting lessons with Donnie Kernan Jr. cost my dad like, $20 an hour. So I was very fortunate.
I remember I had a guy in Michigan. He used to, I called him Kenny Skills. I actually never even learned his last name because his hands were just so good. That's what we call him. I swear to God, I called him Kenny Skills. Awesome. He used this huge wedge, heel curve, the old school Drury, and he had better hands than all of us. Like on our OHL team was like myself, Ricard Raquel, Vince Trocheck, Tom Wilson, Ryan Hartman, Mitch Hurd. We were loaded. We lost to London in the Eastern Conference Finals, or maybe the Western Conference Finals. They had Domi, Horvat, Zadorov, Dakota Murmas, Anthony Stolars, Scott Harrington, Josh Anderson, Chris Tierney. Like it was a loaded series. I'm missing, a couple guys there.
Wow.
And it was so sick. But this Kenny Skills, swear to God, had better hands than all of us. And our lessons were $5.
No way.
For $5, he would have us on the ice, and he's got an Instagram account. I'll have to put it in the show notes, but he's just an awesome hockey nerd, stick nerd. All his clients have phenomenal, puck skills, and it was just, the best. And again, another guy that, grabbed me at the right time and said, hey, if you got some passion, like I'd love to help you. And I agree. I just picked up Daryl Belfry, was another awesome name that, your colleague, competitor, whatever you want to call it. When I first met him with the Leafs and I picked up his book, it was very similar. It's like, okay, like the only thing I knew at 15 years old was like long stride, shoot to hurt or shoot to score. That's what my dad used to say. Like if anyone gets in the way, make sure it stings.
Yeah.
And pass the puck hard and have soft hands. Like that was literally the full extent of my hockey knowledge. And that, at the U.S. team, I added don't use your backhand, which did not serve me in pro hockey. We had a strictly no backhand play rule at the U.S. development team.
Nice.
Which, stupid. Don't use your backhand. Don't pass skating backwards. Our coach used to call it the Larry Robinson School of defense, which maybe I support, but I also see a lot of high-end players, having to skid backwards and make plays.
When you can
and close quick in the D zone. That was it. And that's what I went to pro hockey with.
You can take some from, and I know he does it all the time, Mark Giordano. Ask him about he wheels backwards and snaps the puck. He works on the drill all the time, and I love that drill. I did it with him. I used to skate with him in the summers with a mutual friend of ours, Brad Wheeler. But it's a super effective tool as a defenseman and time saver. And also when you learn how to do it with accuracy, you can really push the pace. And that's a new term, right? Push the pace. And that's something. Sorry to cut you off, but I just wanted
the
guy right in front of you now. Gio is a great guy you can learn from on this stuff.
Awesome. Elite player, and another guy that had to, be a real crafty and kind of hard-headed in his approach, right? He was, kind of denied at first, took his game overseas, came back, has gone on to, play in the NHL now. I don't even know what year it is for him, but it's been a long time. He's an infectious guy to be around the rink. I've really had limited experience with him, but I've loved, watching him work here at training camp. I think we're on day 5, our first, off day as Robbie and I record this. What is something particularly about the European Pro Leagues that you remember fondly? Like I know I've talked to teammates that have gone overseas. On one end, it's a way to continue to do what they love. It's a continuous income. At this point, it's a bit of a bridge to figure out what they want to do next after pro hockey. And a lot of guys flat out just don't make enough money to retire into the sunset forever. And another token, it's very much a carpe diem move. They want to see the world and experience different things, and a lot of them come home with very interesting stories, unique insights on how different players around the world work, how they work on their craft, what their practice habits are, what the system differences are. How has that helped you in your current coaching profession?
I think it was a great education on the game for me. I came over pretty typical North American when I first got to Moto, and thought I was going to go over there and score 100 points, and it's just going to be a ball hockey fest. And man, it was unbelievable hockey. I wound up having 40 points, 42 points, I think, in 50 games, and they were super happy about it. Which in the beginning, I remember when I first got there, I didn't have a point in the first 7 games, and Marcus Naslund was the general manager. Peter Forsberg was the assistant general manager, and Ulf Samuelsson was the head coach.
What a staff!
Yeah, it was sick. And Peter
is sick.
Peter and Marcus were both like 2 idols of mine, especially Peter. I loved him.
Mine too. Yeah.
I used to love his reverse hits, the way he used to wheel around the offensive zone and just zip it, crossover, step into a clapper, go cheese. Like, he was somebody that I grew up. I had it on my Trinity Quebec card. He was one of my favorite players. So. It was unique to get to go there and play, see him in the locker room and stuff. But to take it back to the story, first 7 games, and I was like, man, I'm going to get fired. And I got called in the office, and Alfie was, I was playing good. It wasn't like, 0.7 games and I sucked. I was like, it was just a different game. And there's something that Don Kernan taught me when I was going into the Tier 2 junior at 14. He said to me, he goes, Rob, it's going to take you 10 games to understand this league. It's going to take you 10 games to understand every league going for the rest of your career. So just understand that, and don't get mad. Don't get frustrated. Just remember, it's going to take you 10 games in the beginning, any fresh league you go to learn it. And fortunate enough for me in the Tier 2 one, it took me no time. But progressing OHL, same thing, didn't score. Yeah. Went to Sweden, new league, didn't score. And it was crazy. Just right around 10 games, I just started figuring it out, finding the trends, finding the patterns. So anyways, it's definitely, it was an eye opener to realize that there's, because in North America is just all NHL, which it is what it is. We don't see European hockey, so we don't know what it is.
No.
And maybe it's a defense mechanism for us when we were in North America to like just constantly chirp Europe, but it's good hockey, like really good hockey. It's just a different game, bigger ice surface, right? So there's more space. It's not that tighter area, bigger guys just ground and pound. It's more spread out and more tactical, a little bit more like soccer in the sense of tactics, where not so much striking. You know what I mean? It's like possess, find the hole, try to strike. But that creates a lot more skill, a lot more ability to make passes. For me to sort of encapsulated, it was, in North America, you slip a check and you make one pass and it's a grade A. In Europe, you slip a check, you got to string along. After you slip a check, it's 2 more passes usually for a grade A.
Wow.
So you see where that window kind of gets smaller to score, or the opportunity, because stringing 2 passes is definitely harder than just one. Like walk off the half. In North America, you walk off. For me personally, if I could walk off the half wall and get just about the top of circles, I comfortably could score from there. Confidently.
Yeah, it's a real shot. Yeah.
It's a real shot. And when I went over there, I was doing it, it was like playing catch with the goalie. It was embarrassing, like how lethal it was. It was like, oh shit. I was like, that guy didn't even flinch, and it was like, I had to figure it out. So, and all through, KHL is a whole different beast, a lot of skilled guys, a lot of big dudes, a lot of fast players, really good hockey players outside the NHL, totally different league. Switzerland was a little bit more like, if I encapsulate it, would be a little ball hockey-ish, run and gun. Like in pro hockey, I'd never seen so many. Like one guy gets a breakaway, misses, and somehow the back checker gets it and slings it on a breakaway the other way. I mean, it happened more times than you could count. So it's kind of like, where was the 9 guys on the first one, and where was the 9 guys on the other one? But I thought, in my opinion, outside the NHL, but I haven't played in a while, but Sweden was the best league outside the NHL, in my opinion. This way, it's the structure, the way the game was played, the level of play, the kind of parity through the league. It was very tight. Even the bottom level teams were pretty tough games, and they weren't pushovers. So it was a wild ride through Europe for me. It was extending the career and just keep playing as long as I could. Enjoyed all the cities I went to. It was coming from Fulton, New York, who would have thought I would have lived in Latvia, Switzerland twice, Sweden twice, Germany, and Austria. I mean, those are amazing places in the world. I got to paid to play hockey there. So it was really cool. And I came back the year I saw you at the All-Star game. It was kind of 28, 29. I'm like, yeah, what the hell? Just take a kick at the can one more time. I still felt like I had game. And I came in, I played well. I was proud of that effort. I thought they gave me an AHL deal, and they said, listen, if you play well, we'll rip that up and call you up. And I think it was the first 12 games of the year, I had 7 goals, and 2 guys in the top 6 went down, and not even a sniff. I was like, yeah, that's it happening.
That's it. Yeah.
I was old enough to be able to absorb that at that time. Maybe at 22, it would have been maybe a little bit more pouty, and you know what I'm saying? You take it a little bit differently. 29, I was just appreciative to be back in North America and be closer to mom and dad and enjoy the game in North America for a year.
Yeah, I think that's one of the luxuries of getting older, like just the grace you have with the game, the understanding you have for kind of the whole machine, and just how sensitive some of the bounces you get or don't get are. We were talking about, second, third year pro. I remember our power play in Hershey. I think this actually might have been the year that we met at the OHL All-Star game. I think it was in Utica. And our power play was struggling, and the guy banging one time was kind of in the Ovechkin spot, or he was a righty, so it'd be the Ovi spot, not the Robbie Schremp spot on the left. and he kept like double clutching these one timers, and Thomas Kondratic was an AHL All-Star, and he's throwing a fit. He comes up to me and he keeps telling me my passes suck. Your passes are just not right. The puck's flopping. The timing's not right. And I think they had Stanislav Galiev, who's in the KHL now. He was on the second unit heating up, and for whatever reason, the hands weren't exactly right, and they moved him onto my unit. And we got super hot like the last 25 games, and that's what got me into the AHL All-Star game. Was Galiev started banging my one-timers home. I was kind of going up to Cundy being like, hey, what was wrong with those passes? Like, Stan seems to love them. And, giving them shit. And, it would have been so easy for the coach to, maybe he puts him up top, maybe he takes me off, whatever. And then the second year I was an AHL All-Star. That puts me on team short list. I remember I get called up, I'm with the Washington Capitals. I'm not really playing, and that Todd Reardon, who was the head coach there eventually, he's the assistant in Pittsburgh now, and he just tells me like, hey, keep playing super well. You're on short list. Like, people are watching, and man, you tip your cap at, all the times you've been on the right side of bounces. You kind of forgive yourself for all the ones where you recognize you had a short leash and the cards were stacked against you. And on the other side of it, hopefully like yourself have, something you're passionate about to fall back on, a huge wealth of knowledge, to share and give to, the next player, the next, Robbie Schremp, who, frankly just, had other mentors, but not you. And, I appreciate all you do for the game. And I also want to, just kind of, I've leaned on this term a couple times, but tip my cap to, your work ethic, 19-hour travel day. You just got back from the US, you're over in Latvia, hosting, having this podcast together. That hockey work ethic, man, it follows you wherever you go. It's not something you drop when you're done with the game.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think, there's so much things when you once you get done with the game, you realize what it's taught you, the life. And it's, a lot of guys say it, so it's not anything new or shattering what I'm saying, but it really sticks out to you, that stuff. When you find your passion, how much that went into hockey to get it, for me personally, to get me to where I got to go to, it was passion and drive. Now I'm back in hockey, but to your point though, these things I've tried to implement it in other things. I walked away from hockey for a couple of years, and just to see some of the, tangibles that hockey taught you and some of the traits that gave you, makes it less scary, I guess, once you walk away from the game. Yeah. It's always scary walking away, not knowing what you're going to do or where things apply. We're used to making sauce passes and ripping clappers, where, now you're zipping emails and making phone calls and following up and circling back and that sort of thing. But the work ethic kind of sticks out. The honesty, integrity are the things that I think the game really instills in you. So it's definitely fun being in a different side. I'm happy to be back in the game. I've just needed to find my path, and I'm super passionate about this. And the best thing about now, Con, is the game is so skilled. Like, you're seeing 13, 14,
it's sick. It's so skilled. It's painfully skilled. But that's I still had coaches when I was in midget. I had a coach come up to me. He goes, "What position you play?" I said, "I play D-man." He goes, "No way. Come on. Like, your hands are way too good to be a D-man." And like, that was like, imagine a coach saying that to Cale Makar when he was 15. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, he's McKinnon just on defense. You know what I mean? And man, it's because of guys like you. That's what it is.
Well, it's exciting to see. It's fun to see this game evolve. The rule change took a long time to hit the NHL. In 2004, 2005 lockout. But it's great now because the game's evolved. The borders have kind of come down to the old school. It's gone. You can't. There's not many scrappers anymore. There's no teams that have 5 or 6 fighters, let alone 1 or 2.
No.
The rules have totally kind of evolved in what they wanted to. And what I see now is, just speak lastly on it, is like the young kids are getting super skilled, but with our platforms, what we're seeing is like that education of hockey IQ, of like where to insert punch stop, or where to insert Crosby's, where to insert, these individual skills that are being taught. And it's great that they're learning them. The skating has picked up so much, right? Like, if I watch, I'm watching a ton of hockey now. Like, I think about back when I played, it wasn't that long ago, but even in junior, there was always like 2 guys maybe on each team that you could pick on for defensemen. Yeah. Like, this guy's boots are terrible, I'm going to walk, like, if you did your pre-scout as a player, you looked in the packet, you'd see like, or watched them last time you played them, you always had your you had a guy you could pick on. And nowadays, there's nobody. Like, everybody can skate. Everybody's got an active stick, and it's like, it's totally changed,
No, I appreciate that. Robbie, this was stellar, man. I really appreciate your time, your insight, your story. It's clear, just how passionate about, what you're doing now is with Vision 44. And it's inspiring to see, right? Because I'll be at that stage someday, and to see you handle it. I'm sure there were some tough days, but at least from this side of the fence, it's looked, graceful, like a fine wine type of aging, right? Not a molding over.
Thanks, brother.
And a bitter and resentment. So anyway, where can people find more if you want to reach out, learn more about your platform, learn more about what you're doing next?
44visionhockey.com is our site, and you can reach out on there, and I respond very fast. So, and we're also on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook as well. 44visionhockey.com is, or 44vision on the tags for Instagram and Facebook and Twitter as well. So there's some cool videos we put out there, put out some informational stuff, and follow along with us. And we like to put out a little, just some informational videos as far as breaking down some clips and showing the why and the what. So try to give out as much value as possible to everybody, and try to help evolve this game and grow the game and be part of it. So I appreciate you having me on, dude. It's great to catch up with you. And anything you need down the road, let me know. I'm happy to connect with you and help you out if I can.
Yeah, we'll do. We'll do. Thanks, Rob.